Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about Aaron Nola's 2024 season. One of those odd years for Aaron Nola, not strange, but odd or even, where he performed pretty darn well. We'll break it down on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me for some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on the radio over on 97.5 The Fanatic for 5 years now, talking all Philadelphia sports. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 3 years now, and this is my third season as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies and gets you new notifications when episodes are posted. Would appreciate everyone doing that. And today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So today, we're getting into this conversation about Aaron Nola's 2024. We're back to our evaluations. We did the Juan Soto episode yesterday. If you want to hear my thoughts about why it is an absolutely realistic possibility that Juan Soto ends up a member of the Philadelphia Phillies, you can check out yesterday's episode. But today, we're jumping in on Aaron Nola's 2024 season. Next, we're going to talk about if he's locked into being your number two in 2025, because we had some other darn good pitching performances from rotation members this year. And then we've got some Silver Slugger nominees that I want to talk about a little bit later on in the episode. But let's get started with breaking down Aaron Nola's 2024 season, a season in which his WAR was 3.6, which is not bad. A 3.57 ERA is pretty darn impressive. He was 14-8 record-wise. So, that says, hey, pretty darn good year starting for Aaron Nola. He was quality pretty much all year long. But I want to tell you right off the bat what the most impressive thing for Aaron Nola is. He got that big contract to re-sign here with the Philadelphia Phillies. And he's signed through 2030. So he's going to be here for a long, long time. He's probably a career or close to a career Philly. No, he may go the route of pitching a time or two for on 1-year deals other places. But this guy is already, listen, he's been pitching at the major league level for a long time. He's already 31 and he's signed for the next, 5 years? So 5, 6, depending on how you want to do the math. He's going to be here until he's 36 years old. And that may be a time for him to hang it up. So he has been unbelievable as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. This is hands down the most impressive thing when you look at Aaron Nola and what he's done for the Philadelphia Phillies. This cannot be overstated. This is why they paid him. This is why he is criminally underrated in this city. Availability. The best ability is availability, right? You hear coaches say it all the time. You hear people who break down sports say it all the time. Athletes say it all the time. It's one of those cliches that rings true in every sport all the time. Aaron Nola is so darn available. Listen to these numbers. So back in 2018, probably the best year of his career, where he finished third in the National League All-Star voting, he started 33 games. In 2019, he started 34. In 2020, he started 12, the COVID-shortened season. So we've got 33, 34, and then that 12 in 2020 with the shortened season. Watch that. 2021, he started 32 games. 2022, he started 32 games. 2023, he started 32 games. 2024, he started 33 games this past year. This guy has gone 32 or more games started in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the last 7 seasons, all 6 of the last full seasons. He is just a horse, dude. He is an absolute innings eater, and he's been good. Now, you know the trend of the good year, bad year for Aaron Nola. That stayed true this past year. 2.37 ERA in 2018, 3.87 in 2019, 3.28 in 2020, 4.63 in 2021, 3.25 in 2022, 4.46 in 2023, 3.57 the ERA for Aaron Nola this past year. So now what that means is if you believe the past 6 or 7 years of history, it would say that Aaron Nola is in for a down year in 2025, which is not ideal. Now, maybe he'll buck that trend, but God, Aaron Nola is like kind of one of those guys where you just know what's going to happen, even though it's not logical to assume that's what's going to happen. Like to guess that he's going to have a down year is just purely basing everything on history, but history has been right 6 years in a row, so it's going to be hard not to. But that's a darn good ERA this year. The 3.57 is a great mark. He threw 199 and a third innings pitched. He's gone over 203 times in his career, but that's the 4th highest mark of his 10-year career. He's been really darn good, and he was really good in 2024. Now, he had his moments. He gave up more hits than he ever had in any season of his career, 189. So we had a lot of guys on base. He had to work out of some stuff. He gave up 30 home runs. That's not great. It's only 2 down from last year where he gave up 32, which was easily the most of his career. 30 is the second most of his career. So he's got to get the long ball under control. He allowed 50 walks. That's the 3rd highest mark of any season in his career. So that's not great. And yet, the results were still pretty darn good. His strikeouts, 197. He didn't clear 200 for the first time in 4 seasons. So you look at all that and you say, wow, he had kind of a down year based on all those numbers, home runs, walks, strikeouts, all of that stuff, hits allowed, all of those things that you'd think contribute to runs. Aaron Nola did a great job of dancing out of danger at a lot of points this year. Take a look at the whip. I mean, a 1.199 whip. That's his highest number in that category since 2019. And yet, he had a solid season and tallied 14 wins. And we know wins aren't everything. We learned that from Taijuan Walker's season in 2023. But my point is this, right? Aaron Nola is always going to give you around a 3 to a low 4 ERA. That's just where he's going to live. And that's very, very good. Like in this day and age of baseball, you will take that to the darn bank. It's not going to win him any Cy Young awards. It may not make him many all-star teams, but what it's going to do is it's going to put him at the 2 spot in this rotation behind Zach Wheeler and say, when we need you, you're going to go out there and you're just going to eat innings and you're going to give us 6 or maybe 7 on a good day, and you're going to throw maybe 2 earned runs worth of ball, maybe 3, and you're going to give us a chance to win. And the long balls will be annoying at points, and the blow-up innings will be annoying at points, and then every once in a while you'll get one of those unbelievable starts from Aaron Nola. I believe he had a complete game this year. Let me double check. Yes, he did have a complete game shutout this year as well, which is just proof of where his ceiling still is as a pitcher. I mean, he's a guy who can go out and get it. It's kind of wild that Tyler Phillips, Ranger Suarez, Cristopher Sanchez, Aaron Nola, like all had complete game shutout or complete games. Maybe all had complete game shutouts, but Zach Wheeler didn't even have a complete game. I digress. But Aaron Nola, the thing is, dude, find me a pitcher that's going to be available like Aaron Nola and be as productive as Aaron Nola. You're not going to. Like around all of baseball, you are not going to find that guy. And it might sound like I'm saying, wow, Aaron Nola, he's so underrated. He does all of this stuff so well. Why do we not appreciate him enough? No, like I get why Aaron Nola is treated the way he is in this city. I get why he drives people crazy. I get why people see him like in the postseason series against the Mets, making that start and kind of not shutting down the Mets, doing solidly, but still not doing what Zach Wheeler did in game 1, which a lot of people don't do. It's not fair to compare him to that, but you kind of do when your team is reeling in a series and he throws. I look at it and I say, okay, he's a very good pitcher who's out there all the time, who gives this franchise exactly what they pay for. And in a world of contracts that don't work out or that you never know and everything's a gamble, Aaron Nola is not a gamble at all. Aaron Nola is a sure darn thing year in and year out, and that's why you paid him all that money. Because Bryce Harper, if you told me, right, you were going to pay Bryce Harper and give him a 10-year contract, right, a huge, long contract, I would say you're going to have some insanely good years in there. And then you may have some years in there where he gets hurt or back on the back end where he doesn't really perform the same way, but you'll trade like the 45 home run year for the 15 to 20 home run year and an injury because they'll balance out when everything's all said and done. That's still somewhat of a gamble, right? And Bryce Harper is one of the best hitters in baseball. I love the guy, and he's productive more often than not and all of this stuff. That's just how kind of players work. Aaron Nola, you know that year after year after year, he's going to give you like 32, 33 starts. He's going to give you an ERA around 3.5, 3.6, 3.7. He's going to give you around 200 strikeouts, and he's going to battle when he goes out there. And he's also going to be a good postseason pitcher in that he's been there before. He's a veteran arm, a good clubhouse guy, never causes problems. None of that stuff can be overstated. Now, as far as his evaluation compared to expectations in 2024, I think he had a better year this year than he did last year, but he definitely had some ups and downs. I can't give him like an A. I can't give him a B plus or anything like that. I'm going to go B minus for Aaron Nola in 2024 because it was better than expected, but it wasn't anything like crazy special from him. He was very good and he was reliable, and that's what Aaron Nola is: reliable and sometimes great. And that's what the Phillies ask him to be. So can't get mad at that. Now, B minus, according to Aaron Nola's evaluation, is like what we expected him to be versus where he was at. Compared to other pitchers in baseball, I'm going to give Aaron Nola we'll give him a B plus because I need to leave ceiling for some other guys we're going to talk about in this rotation who had amazing seasons in 2024. But B plus compared to peers, B minus compared to his own expectations. A solid year for Aaron Nola. And yet when it came to the postseason, he didn't pitch game 1 and he didn't pitch game 2. So coming up next, we're going to discuss, is Aaron Nola your number 2 next year? Or could the Phillies be looking to do something different in the rotation? We'll break it down on today's episode, or as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Robinhood first. I love Robinhood. I do. And let me tell you about it why. Well, first of all, Robinhood is a great place to go ahead and check everything out. Stocks wise, and take a look at things that you can do with your finances. But we're doing Robinhood Gold today. We're talking about it. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood Gold or Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. I also want to tell you about Arena Club, which if you're a collector, if you're a sports fan, if you like cards, this is the place for you. But maybe the idea of spending $2,000 or more on cards like, I don't know, a Luka Doncic rookie card, an Ellie De La Cruz rookie card, a Patrick Mahomes rookie card, maybe that's just not in the cards for you and your finances. It's like, that's a lot of money. Here's what you want to do. Here's the best way. I love collecting, but that's some serious money to drop. So what I do is I check out slab packs from arenaclub.com. Now it's possible to score gem mint cards for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that I listed was a hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. So you know what you're getting into. You go ahead and check it out. You don't want to just rip open packs and not know, like, hey, maybe I'll get this, maybe I'll get that, maybe I'll get this rated card, but I don't know what the card will be. Arena Club gives you all your percentages and options. They're awesome. They're revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. And right now you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/lockedonmlb and use code lockedonmlb. That's arenaclub.com/lockedonmlb, code lockedonmlb for 10% off your first purchase. Go ahead and check out the folks over at Arena Club. They're the best. This is where the conversation around Aaron Nola gets interesting, right? Stay with me on this one. So I don't think Aaron Nola did anything to get demoted in 2024. I don't think he's got a drop-off coming. I don't think he's getting old. Like, I mean, we're all getting older, the unstoppable march of time. How's that for your existential crisis on a Thursday? But I don't think Aaron Nola is like getting to a point in his career where he's an old player, where he's like, he's washed. He's on the downhill. No, I think he's got good years ahead of him still. He hasn't really shown any signs of breaking down. He hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. He is what he is with the production. Like, I don't think he's going to turn into a Hall of Fame like all MLB type of guy, but I don't think he's going to be bad. I just think Aaron Nola is what he is right now, and I don't think that that's on a significant decline. So why would we have this conversation about whether or not he's your number 2 pitcher in 2024? Well, it's not that he's come back to the pack. It's that the pack has caught up to Aaron Nola, and that's a great thing for the Philadelphia Phillies. Zach Wheeler is your clear and obvious number 1. There is no debate. We barely even evaluated Zach Wheeler's 2024 because it was so darn good. His numbers were otherworldly. If Chris Sale didn't exist, if Chris Sale was in the American League, Zach Wheeler would be your NL Cy Young winner. I know that's a big if because Chris Sale is going to win it and he fully deserves it. But that guy is your 1. But when you got to the postseason and you faced the Mets, the guy who got the ball in game 2, who won you your first game of the series, was Cristopher Sanchez. And he looked darn good. And he went out there partially because you trust Aaron Nola more on the road, and Cristopher Sanchez was bad on the road and good at home. But Sanchez went out there and battled. And the Phillies signed Sanchez to a long-term extension and cut down some of the money they would have to owe him in the future by getting it done early. So Sanchez is locked down long-term now. Now, Nola also is locked down long-term, and he's got a lot of experience. And part of this is, hey, veteran players get opportunity over younger players, guys that have been here and deserve it, that deserve to continue to get those opportunities. So that's Aaron Nola, and that's what he's earned from years of service to the Philadelphia Phillies. But Cristopher Sanchez is really good. And on top of that, Ranger Suarez started the season as arguably the best pitcher in baseball for like a month or two there. Him and Zach Wheeler were neck and neck, and Ranger Suarez was out in front for a little bit until he had injury issues. And then his family came here, and he like had all this stuff going on off the field. Not that any of that was like bad, but it was just he had a tumultuous second half of the season with a lot of stuff going on that wasn't just stepping on the mound and playing baseball. And that's fine. Like, I'm not ripping the guy for that. I don't even really – it doesn't bother me all that much with Ranger Suarez. But he was very good to start the season. When he's healthy and ready to go, he's pretty darn good. Is there a chance that Aaron Nola is not your number 2 starter in 2025? My gut feeling is like 75%, 3 out of 4, it's going to be Nola, right? If I ran the simulation, whatever, we fast forwarded, if this was MLB The Show, and we fast forwarded to the end of spring training, and Zach Wheeler's getting the ball on opening day, and someone's getting the ball on day 2 of the regular season, I think it's Nola 3 times out of 4. But 75% ain't 100%. In the past couple of years, it was 100% that Aaron Nola was going to be one of your first 2 pitchers. It was either him or Wheeler on opening day, and it was the other guy on game 2. So now the door opens a little bit. And again, it's not because Nola has not thrown well the past couple of years. He hasn't thrown great, but he hasn't thrown poorly at all by Major League standards. Like Taijuan Walker is throwing poorly by Major League standards. Aaron Nola is throwing questionably by Aaron Nola standards, which are pretty darn high, like top 25, 30 pitcher in baseball. So this isn't a knock on Nola, but is there a world where Cristopher Sanchez makes the second start of the year? Absolutely. Is there a world where Ranger Suarez makes the second start of the year? Absolutely. I think it's less likely for Ranger Suarez to be that guy. And here's why. Because he's not locked up long-term. So putting a guy second spot in the rotation, if you put him over Aaron Nola, is going to build confidence. You want to build confidence in a guy that you've already invested in. Not that you don't care about Ranger Suarez, but you've already paid Sanchez. If it's a coin flip between the guy you have locked down for a long time and a guy that's going to be hitting free agency at the end of this next year, if you do not put an extension to his name, you're going with the guy that you already have locked down. Or maybe the Phillies look at it and say, hey, we want Ranger to be here. We want to show a faith to him that we want him here, and we'll figure out the payment later. We'll make him the 2. So it could happen, but I would expect more likely than not Nola's still the 2 in 2025. Then the next most likely would be Cristopher Sanchez. And then the third most likely would be Ranger Suarez. But if any of those guys go out there, this is one of those decisions that Rob Thompson can't get wrong. Not like he's not allowed to get wrong, like he's not able to get wrong. Whoever gets the ball in game 2 is going to be nasty. Sanchez is good. Suarez is good. Nola's good. Wheeler's good. Those top 4 guys are as good of a top 4 in a rotation in baseball as you're going to see. The 5th spot, well, that's a conversation we're going to have throughout the offseason. But those guys are unbelievable. And however you break down the top 2 spots in the rotation is totally fine by me. And it should be totally fine with Phillies fans. And remember, it's just going to be the regular season. When we get to the postseason, everything gets reevaluated all over again. If you had told me this time last year when Cristopher Sanchez had only pitched one inning in the postseason run, you say he's going to be your number 2 playoff starter next year, I would have said, what are you talking about? You're insane. So things can change. But that's where things stand right now. Coming up as we wrap up today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the Silver Slugger Award nominees for the Philadelphia Phillies. We have the nominees' names. There are 3 of them. We'll tell you who they are, what position, and if they're deserving, and also if they've got a good chance to win it. We'll talk about that coming up as we wrap up today's episode. Let's talk about GameTime first, though. GameTime is awesome. They've got GameTime picks, right? It's a new feature they have that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play even easier. You put in GameTime picks, right? It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Some dude out in wherever listed his ticket because he can't make it, and he's got an upper deck ticket that he's listing for $10,000. You don't want to see that, right? That's annoying. There's no reason for you to have to scroll through a bunch of those guys asking for ridiculous prices and then have to find your tickets in that whole mess. No, GameTime Picks filters all of that out for you. They make it super easy. So that's a great way to curate your options to you. Plus, they have all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. You can get a panoramic view of your seat from the app before you buy. Plus, they have the lowest price guarantee. If you find seats in the same row and section for less, well, GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. And you might say, Connor, all that sounds great, but what can I get tickets to? Well, NFL games for one, NBA games for another, NHL games, college football games, comedy, concerts, theater, anything you need a ticket for, basically, GameTime has got you. They're amazing. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime Picks. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? You know it's game time. And now let me tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is amazing. It is America's #1 sportsbook, and you can get ready to tackle the NFL action. Second half of the season is almost here with FanDuel. So right now, new customers, you can bet $5, just $5, not even a 10, $5, and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. All you got to do is just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So I'd take that $5 bet that you got to win, and I'd say, I don't know, the Eagles are taking on the Cowboys. The Cowboys stink this weekend. Take that $5 bet, do the alternate line. Do Eagles like, I don't know, -30. And go ahead and place that. You're going to get $150, even though the odds aren't that great on that. You'll get $150 to spend. Perfect, right? That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's talk some Silver Slugger, not Silver Slug. That'd be a pretty cool animal, though. Silver Slugger Award nominees for the Philadelphia Phillies. There are 3 guys. If you have not seen yet, I'm going to give you a second to make your guesses on who these 3 players are. Okay, you got your guesses? The first Silver Slugger finalist is at the catcher position, and it is not Garrett Stubbs, all due respect to Stubbs. It is JT Realmuto being named a 2024 Silver Slugger finalist, which is interesting to me because he did not feel like he had the most productive offensive season. And we said by his standards, it was a down year. And we talked about, does he need to sit more and get more innings off and games off to up that offensive production? And then he's a Silver Slugger Award finalist. And here's what that tells us about JT Realmuto. Exactly what I brought up in his evaluation. When we look at Realmuto, we do not look at him the way that 99% of MLB teams look at their catcher. He's an unbelievable offensive option compared to his peers and an unbelievable defensive option compared to his peers. And he might not be like the clear consensus best catcher in baseball anymore. And that happens. He's getting older. But the fact of the matter is, if you're ripping JT Realmuto, a lot of it is based on what you believe the player can be and not what the catcher position is around baseball. We are still very lucky to have him as the backstop of this team, and he is very deserving to be a finalist of the Silver Slugger position or Silver Slugger award at the position of catcher. Now, do I think JT's going to win it? I don't. But I think he's fully deserving of a nomination. Now, this next guy, I think, has absolutely a chance to win it at first base in the National League. Bryce, Aaron, Max, Harper, fully deserving. The guy is unbelievable. I can't say enough good things about Bryce Harper. He is a Silver Slugger nominee at first base. I believe this is the first time he's been a nominee at first base in his career. I don't remember if he got one last year at first base or if it was as a DH or how exactly that works. It's just slipping my mind. But it's great work by him. That dude, if you put him at any position in baseball, he would be a Silver Slugger finalist. He's just one of the best pure hitters in the game. There's no denying that whatsoever. He probably should win the award at first base. You should be a situation where, like, who would beat him? I'm thinking around the National League, and Freddie Freeman didn't play enough out there with the Dodgers. Now, if it was based on just the World Series, absolutely. He hit a home run basically every at bat. Pete Alonso had a down year for most of it. I know he was good in the postseason, but in the regular season, first baseman around the National League, you could argue that Bryce Harper was the best. That's why he was the all-star starter at first base. That's why he was good in the second half. That's why he's got this nominee. I would expect Bryce Harper to be the Silver Slugger winner at first base in the National League. And the final one is a guy that people want to trade. People want to move on from. People are tired of here in this city, but he's only 28 years old. And my goodness, Alec Bohm is a Silver Slugger finalist at third base. And I suppose there's a chance that he could actually straight up win the award rather than just being nominated. But this is why when I look at Alec Bohm, I say, guys, it would be crazy to move him. It'd be crazy for Dave Dombrowski to trade Alec Bohm. Like, it just would be. I don't see it as likely. You have a guy that is an all-star starter at third base, that is arbitration eligible, that is a Silver Slugger finalist. He's played solid defense. He's created offense. He's created opportunities for this team when it comes to his at-bats in the regular season. And in the postseason, he has flat out stunk. He has been miserable in the postseason. He has cost his team time and time again when he steps to the plate in the postseason. And that may sound harsh. I think that's a fair evaluation of what Alec Bohm has been in the postseason. But what I'm not doing is looking at that guy and saying, well, we're better off without him. You're not. You need him to be better, but you're not better off without the all-star starter at third base that can field it a little bit now. That's a Silver Slugger final. No, you're not. You're not a better baseball team without Alec Bohm unless you add like an unbelievable third baseman. And I don't think Jose Ramirez is walking in the door anytime soon. Like, I just don't see that as a realistic possibility that you upgraded that position. I don't want you to downgrade because you're competing for the World Series. And that's why I don't think Alec Bohm is going anywhere. So congrats to Alec Bohm on his Silver Slugger nomination. Could he win it? Less likely than Bryce Harper. Probably more likely than JT Realmuto. So, yeah, the hierarchy of likelihood, I'd expect Bryce Harper to win his Silver Slugger nomination. I'd expect Alec Bohm, I see is kind of like a coin flip. And JT Realmuto most likely not. So that's how you break that down. But congrats to the three nominees for the Philadelphia Phillies. By the way, going back to the Gold Glove nominees, we had three in that as well. Bryce Harper, Bryson Stott, and Brandon Marsh out there in left field. None of those guys came home with the true Gold Glove award. They were all nominees, but they did not win those awards. Just a little update in case you're wondering when those came out. They already have. And no Phillies took home any Gold Glove. Oh, sorry, 4 positions because Zach Wheeler, too, at the position of pitcher. He did not get it either. It went to Chris Sale, just like it seems like all the hardware is going to go to this year. Chris Sale from the Atlanta Braves. So more individual awards. That's always nice to see. It doesn't replace the chance to win a World Series, but it does remind you a little bit as we get further and further away of the heartbreak of that Mets series of just how good this team still is. And they are still a darn good baseball team with the guys that they have. I'm going to beat that into your brains all offseason long, and people are not going to believe it. And we're going to go into another fight next season when this team is really good again. But I guess that's the cycle we're in with the Philadelphia Phillies right now, and it is what it is. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to go based on the rotation starting the season last year, right? So next up for evaluation is Ranger Suarez. And that one, Whew, that's a doozy of an evaluation considering all the things that his year entailed. And how in the world do you break down a tale of two halves with Ranger Suarez? I'm going to do my best tomorrow. So tune in for that one. That's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure, once again, you're rating and reviewing wherever you consume this in podcast form. Just hitting that subscribe button on the YouTube so you get notifications when new episodes are posted. Also, you hitting that subscribe button, it really, really helps me out. Helps me make a little more money to do this. Helps me know what content you guys like and that people are enjoying the stuff. So I would appreciate it if you did that, and it gets you notifications when new episodes are posted. All right, that's it. So I'll talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.